In the heart of Lagos, there stood a compound known as Ladies' Haven. It was supposed to be a peaceful place, a home only for women, clean, affordable, and safe. That was what everyone said. But behind the painted walls and fancy signboard, something dark was happening. Every woman who lived there would soon realize she had walked straight into a nightmare. Before we begin this story, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and if this is your first time watching the channel, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's begin. The landlord, Mr. Raymond, was an older man with a polite smile and a calm voice. Everyone thought he was kind, the kind of man who fixed your plumbing himself and brought you fruit during the weekend. But there was something strange about him. Nobody ever saw where he went at night. Sometimes lights flickered in his flat after midnight, and faint humming sounds came from his room. The women ignored it at first. Lagos was full of strange people after all. Then one morning, chaos broke loose. One of the tenants, a quiet woman named Cynthia, screamed so loud that the whole compound ran to her room. She had just returned from the hospital, holding a test result in her shaking hands. It said she was pregnant, but she swore she hadn't been with any men in months. Everyone laughed at first, until two more tenants came back with the same result. Something was very, very wrong at Ladies' Haven. By the end of that same week, 5 more women from Ladies' Haven discovered they were pregnant. None of them had been with any man recently. Some cried, some fainted, some locked themselves indoors and refused to speak to anyone. The entire compound turned into confusion. They gathered in the courtyard, shouting at each other, throwing accusations around. "Somebody is lying," one woman yelled. "We can't all be pregnant without men," another screamed. Mr. Raymond, the landlord, appeared calm through it all. He stood by the gate, watching the chaos like it was a movie. When they asked him what was going on, he only smiled. Maybe it's a miracle. Maybe God has blessed this house. His words sent chills down everyone's spine. A few of the women even spat on the ground and walked away. Something about his voice didn't sound right, like he was enjoying their fear. That night, one of the tenants, Naomi, decided to investigate. She stayed awake, pretending to sleep, waiting for midnight. Around 1 a.m., she heard footsteps outside her window, slow, heavy, dragging steps. She peeked through the curtain and saw a shadow moving across the courtyard toward Cynthia's room. The figure stopped for a moment, then disappeared through the door without opening it. She froze. How could anyone walk through a locked door? The next morning, Cynthia was gone. When morning came, Cynthia's room was empty. Her bed was neatly made, her clothes still hanging in the wardrobe, but she was nowhere to be found. The women searched everywhere, bathroom, backyard, even the rooftop. Nothing. Fear spread through the compound like wildfire. Some believed she had run away out of shame, but Naomi couldn't shake off what she saw last night. She swore she saw someone or something enter Cynthia's room without using the door. They went to report to the police, but the officers laughed. "Adults can disappear if they want," one said. "She probably went to her boyfriend's house." Nobody took them seriously. That was when Naomi decided to confront Mr. Raymond directly. When she entered his flat, the smell of medicine and old dust filled her nose. The room was dark, with strange jars and herbs stacked on a table. In the middle of the room sat a bowl of water that reflected her face, and behind her reflection, she saw Cynthia's eyes staring back at her. Naomi screamed and ran out, but Mr. Raymond followed her slowly, smiling like nothing happened. "Curiosity can be dangerous, my dear," he said in a calm voice. "Some things are better left unseen." That night, Naomi packed her things and tried to leave, but the gate wouldn't open. She pushed and kicked, but it felt welded shut. The lights in the compound began to flicker again. The women came out of their rooms frightened. Then from every corner of the compound, a deep humming sound rose, the same sound Naomi had heard the night before. Ladies' Haven had become a trap. That night, the whole compound stayed awake. Nobody could sleep. The lights flickered on and off while the strange humming sound kept growing louder. Naomi gathered the women in the courtyard. She whispered, "Something is wrong with this place. Cynthia didn't run away. I think the landlord did something to her." The women gasped. Some believed her, some didn't. But before they could argue, Mr. Raymond appeared again, holding a lantern in his hand. "Why are you all awake?" he asked calmly, his face half hidden in the light. Naomi stood up to him. "Where is Cynthia?" she shouted. "What did you do to her?" The women held their breath. Mr. Raymond only smiled again. "Cynthia has been taken care of," he said softly. "You should all be grateful." His tone was cold, final, the kind that made the air feel heavy. Then he turned and walked back to his room as the gate suddenly creaked open by itself and slammed shut again. The next morning, everyone decided to leave. But something strange happened. The moment anyone tried to step outside the compound, they felt dizzy and collapsed. By noon, all of them had severe headaches and weakness. A few of them started vomiting and complaining about pain in their stomachs. Naomi realized whatever was happening wasn't just spiritual, it was physical too. She gathered courage and checked one of the water tanks. What she saw made her scream. Floating inside the tank were pieces of something dark and slimy, like rotten flesh. The women had been drinking poison.
Just then they heard footsteps again, slow and heavy. Mr. Raymond came out, dressed in white, holding a small bowl that looked like it was filled with red liquid. His eyes were blank, distant, like he was no longer human. "You shouldn't have opened that tank," he said softly. "You've broken the rule." The women screamed and scattered in all directions. Naomi picked up a stone and threw it at him, but the stone hit the ground before reaching him, as if something invisible stopped it in the air. He began chanting in a language no one understood. The ground under their feet started shaking lightly. Then one by one, the women clutched their stomachs and fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Naomi held her stomach too. It felt like something was moving inside her. She cried out, but Mr. Raymond only watched with a cold smile. "You belong to me now, all of you." Then he turned around and walked away, leaving them on the floor, screaming in terror. By the next morning, half of the tenants could barely stand. Their stomachs were swollen and their bodies weak. Some cried that they could feel something moving inside them. Naomi went from room to room trying to comfort them, but she was scared herself. The once lively compound now looked like a haunted place. Clothes scattered everywhere, food untouched, and the air filled with fear. Every window was locked, every door felt heavier than usual, and the gate wouldn't open no matter how hard they pushed. It was as if the compound was alive, holding them captive. Desperate, Naomi broke into Mr. Raymond's apartment again, hoping to find a clue. Inside, she found a small cupboard covered with a black cloth. When she opened it, she froze. Inside were dozens of photographs, pictures of every woman in the compound, each pinned with a red thread tied to a small clay pot filled with dark water. On one shelf, she found a strange notebook written in messy handwriting. The pages contained drawings of women and a line that read, "The womb is the key. The seed is mine." Her hands shook as she flipped through the pages. The last entry had that day's date written on it, and below it, her own name. Naomi dropped the book and ran out, shouting for the others to come. But before she could reach them, the lights in the entire compound went off. Only the landlord's flat remained lit, glowing red through the window. Then, from the darkness, Cynthia's voice whispered, "Naomi, he's coming." Naomi froze when she heard Cynthia's voice. She turned slowly toward the sound, and there, standing in the dim corridor, was Cynthia, pale, shaking, and barefoot. Her eyes were hollow, her skin almost gray. The other women screamed and backed away, terrified. "Cynthia?" Naomi whispered. "You're alive?" But Cynthia didn't answer. She just pointed toward Mr. Raymond's room and said, "He's not human." Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. Naomi and two others rushed to her side, trying to wake her, but her skin was ice cold. On her neck were strange black marks, like veins that had turned dark. Before Naomi could react, a deep voice echoed from the landlord's room. "Enough hiding." The door creaked open, and Mr. Raymond stepped out, but this time his face looked different. His eyes glowed faintly, his skin too smooth, too perfect. He walked towards them slowly, dragging a large black bag behind him. "You can't fight destiny," he said. "You were chosen." Naomi stood up, trembling but defiant. "You're sick. You need help," she shouted. Mr. Raymond only smiled. "Help? No, my dear. I am the help." He opened the black bag and poured its contents on the floor, ashes, bones, and torn pieces of women's clothes. The sight made everyone scream and scatter in fear. Naomi grabbed Cynthia and ran into her room, locking the door behind them. But when she turned around, Cynthia was gone again. Only a faint whisper lingered in the air. "Run, before it's too late." Before we continue, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and if this is your first time watching, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's continue. Naomi's heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. She pressed her ear against the door, listening for any sound, but the entire compound was silent. Too silent. The humming was gone. Even the wind had stopped. Then she heard footsteps again, slow and heavy, moving from door to door. Each time they stopped, she heard a knock. 1, 2, 3. Then a woman's scream followed, and silence again. Naomi covered her mouth, tears rolling down her face. She could feel something inside her stomach shift. It wasn't pain this time. It was movement. Real movement. Suddenly, the door burst open. Mr. Raymond stood there, but his body had changed. His eyes glowed red, his hands long and dark, his smile wider than any human should be. "You should have listened," he said calmly. "You were blessed, but you chose fear." Naomi grabbed a broken glass bottle and pointed at him. "Stay away from me," she screamed. He laughed softly. "Do you think I want to hurt you? No, my dear. You're the perfect one. You carry my seed."
Naomi swung the bottle, cutting his arm, but instead of blood, a thick black smoke poured out. The smell was unbearable. He grabbed her by the throat, but before he could tighten his grip, a bright light flashed from behind. One of the women had lit a kerosene lamp and thrown it at him. Flames spread across his clothes instantly. He roared in pain and stumbled backward as the compound caught fire. Naomi dropped to the ground, gasping. The women ran out screaming as the fire spread everywhere. But when Naomi looked up again, the landlord was gone. The fire burned through the night. Flames swallowed the compound and black smoke filled the sky. The women ran into the street, calling for help. Neighbors came out, calling the fire service, but by the time help arrived, Ladies' Haven was gone, reduced to ash and silence. Naomi sat by the roadside, her clothes burnt, her hands shaking. She watched as the roof collapsed and the walls melted away. It felt like a curse finally breaking, but deep inside, she wasn't sure if it was truly over.